the sixth truth of what we must believe to grow generous Christians and a generous church culture. We must believe that people don't become generous by accident. We can't hope people become generous. It's a primary idol in our culture, and it rarely happens accidentally. It must be chosen by people, and therefore it must be taught and modeled and shared by us. I'm just going to use one passage to show this. Luke chapter 12. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." So there's someone who looks at Jesus as an authority and says, "Hey, my brother's ripping me off of my parents' inheritance. Would you help me?" And Jesus replies, "Man, who appointed me as judge or arbiter between you?" In other words, Jesus says, "Hey, that's out of my lane. That's not why I'm here." That's pretty incredible. And then it gets worse. Jesus says, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." So when Jesus says, watch out for greed, he's talking to the guy who just said, "My brother's ripping me off. Will you help me?" And Jesus says, careful, careful. That might be greedy. We think justice. Jesus thinks be careful of greed. And then he shares a parable that we're familiar with. But remember, the context was someone who just wanted justice. Jesus said this: "The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, 'What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops.' Then he said, 'This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll store up my surplus grain, and I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry.'" Now, let's stop there for a second. Let's put it in 21st century terminology. Imagine someone approached you and said, "Hey, pastor, hey, elder, hey, friend, I've been running this small business, whatever it is. It's a coffee shop, and it's exploded. It's the most popular coffee shop in the area." And he says, "Frankly, I can't do anymore. There's always a line. There's no more space. It's working. I'm making good money, but I could do more. Here's what I'm thinking." And then he shares a business plan. "I'm going to launch 5 more locations. They won't compete with each other because they're spread out enough. Here's the amount of money I'll make, and frankly, it's going to be amazing." And he doesn't say, "I'll take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." He might say, "Man, I could retire early. I could play golf more. I can take more vacations with my wife. It's going to be great." I would think if someone said that to me, my tendency is to say, "That sounds amazing." But what did Jesus say? He called that person a fool. He said, "This very night your life will be demanded from you. Who will get what you've prepared for yourself?" Now, stop there for a second. This seems strange because Proverbs, it talks about that when you work hard, God blesses those with wealth, that we should set aside money for an inheritance. Why does the Bible seem to say God blesses you? Ecclesiastes 5 says when God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, this is a gift of God. But here it sounds like a curse. Verse 21 is the key to this passage. He says this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. The problem isn't that the farmer was going to build bigger silos to store his grain. The problem was he was building his wealth so he could spend it on himself. And the standard was he was not rich toward God. And here's the truth. Nobody drifts into generosity. People become generous because someone taught them, someone modeled it for them, someone invited them, someone challenged them, someone walked with them. Which means if people are not growing in generosity, it's not because they don't care. It's because no one's discipled them there. So here's the question for us as leaders. If generosity is discipleship, and if discipleship is our calling as spiritual leaders, then what would it look like for us to lead more boldly in this arena? Not apologetically, not cautiously, but pastorally, biblically, confidently. Let's embrace these foundational truths, and from them come incredible strategies, systems, and best practices that will shape the heart of disciples and grow a culture of generosity in your church.